Welcome to Personality Speaking. My name is Karen Ward. I'm an advanced certified personality trainer and speaker. I'm the author of the book Coupled for Life, Overcoming Personality Differences in Marriage. I'm also a personality coach. This show is dedicated to helping you understand each other and build healthier, stronger relationships. It is also talking about the personalities. There are 4 personality styles that we'll talk about throughout the broadcast to help you to identify your own personality style and the personality styles of those you love or come in contact with on a daily basis. This personality speaking show is focused on helping you develop healthier relationships. And we hope that you will get tips that you can take away and be able to do just that. Tonight, I'm excited, you guys. I'm excited because we're going to talk This happened to us before last week, but it happened at the end of the broadcast. What is going on? The issues we were having was with wireless, and I am directly connected, so there should be no interruptions. But I'm not worried about it. God has it.
Absolutely.
God has it, and I'm not going to worry about it, but we're just going to move forward. But anyway, I'm going to introduce my friend that's on the screen tonight. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about the 4 personality styles. The 4 personality styles that we deal with on this show is based on Florence Littauer's personality trait theory, and it's called The Personalities. So I'm excited tonight to be able to share with you a little bit about that. But if you want to know more about it, you can go to my website, which I'll divulge in a couple of minutes. So let's talk about the 4 personality styles. You have 2 introverted personality styles. You have 2 extroverted personality styles. An introvert is a person who gets their energy from within. An extrovert is the person who gets their energy from other people. So I'm excited about that, that we know that what the introverted personalities look like, right? I'm one of them. So I'm sorry, extroverted. I'm an extroverted personality. The first part of my personality style, because I have a primary and a secondary. The primary is a popular sanguine. The popular sanguine is fun-loving. They love to be around people. As I said before, we get our energy from people. We love food, fun, and fellowship. Those are the 3 F's that we love, love, love. Then you have the powerful choleric. The powerful choleric is a strategic person who gets more done in the morning than we get done all week long. They are the kind of personalities that are just strong in their ability to get anything they want done accomplished. They usually are the kind of people that do really well in business. All right, so those are your 2 extroverted personality styles. Now, with every strength of an personality style, there are some challenges or areas of opportunity, right? And so with the popular sanguine, some of those areas of opportunity are that we're flighty, we're forgetful. Yeah, you're laughing at that because you know it's true, right? So we forget sometimes in mid-sentence what we're talking about. And we talk too much. Then with the powerful choleric, some of their areas of opportunities are they're bossy and controlling. It's their way or the highway. So those are your extroverts. Let's talk about your introverts. Your introverts are your perfect melancholy and your peaceful phlegmatic. Your perfect melancholy is a deep thinker. They're compassionate. They're highly intelligent. But on their areas of opportunity, they are moody and they're judgmental, right? Moody and judgmental,
Yes.
and critical of people. Now let's talk about your peaceful phlegmatic. The peaceful phlegmatic is cool, calm, and collected, right? You can always count on them. They're dependable. But their areas of opportunity is that they're uninterested and they mumble a lot. They are into their own heads and they have a lot of fears. So those are just a few of the traits, both positive and areas of opportunity of all four of the personality styles. If you want to know more about that, you can go to my website, which is Beyond Two. That's BeyondTwoLLC.com. And you can either purchase a personality assessment to determine your own personality assessment, which you will get a 20-minute consultation to go over your results. In addition to that, you can find out more about what I do and what I offer on that page as it relates to personalities. Let's get into it, you guys. Tonight episode is called The Personalities and Becoming a Better You. And this episode is going to air with my buddy, my friend, my brother in Christ, Ed Smith. And I want to introduce you to him, telling you a little bit more about him. Leaving his beloved homeland of Jamaica at age 28, Ed migrated to the United States to pursue the American dream. Yeah, Ed, never mind. I won't tell you what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to leave and go to Jamaica. Taking full advantage of the opportunities available, he earned his bachelor's degree in business management with honors and went on to have a successful careers in mortgage and the social services industries. Passionate about music, he has sung in many groups and has also managed and produced and written for various artists. A man of God, Ed is a family man who loves his wife, children, and grandchildren. Always an entrepreneur at heart, together with his beautiful wife, my friend Debbie. He is the author of 4 books, 2 of which became Amazon's best sellers. A certified marriage and pre-marital counselor and a wedding officiator. Edward has the passion for marriage. As a result, he's determined to help others become relationship strong. Welcome, brother.
What's going on, sis?
Not a whole lot. What's going on with you, bro?
Man, I can't complain, man. I'm down here in the dirty South enjoying life, man, to the fullest.
You are in the dirty South, man. You come all the way to the U.S. You were where? In Jersey? No, Pennsylvania for the longest time in the Poconos.
Well, no, we were in Jersey for the longest.
Ah.
And then we moved from Jersey once we got married to Pennsylvania. We lived in Pennsylvania for 14 years. And so we're empty nesters, right?
Yeah.
So once the children were out, we looked at each other. My wife and I looked at each other and said, listen, we going south.
I I love that because I feel the same way. Like we're empty nesters too, right? My husband can retire at any moment. He could retire last year. And so he's talking about retiring next year. And I'm talking about Jamaica, Belize. I'm talking Costa Rica. See ya. We'll talk more about that another day.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about, I want the people to understand how we met each other. Do you remember?
Well, how could I forget, Karen? So it was about 7, 8 years ago. My wife and I went to an event in Maryland, of which you were the featured speaker there. And mind you, I'm never late for anything, in my life, but it so happens on this day we were late. I have somebody that I could blame for that, but we're not gonna play the blaming game now. Right? And so we were late, and so when we walked in, you were already on stage speaking, and in the middle of your speech, as I walked in, you were making a point and you said, so see, like that brother there who just walked in, and I looked at my wife, I'm like, babe, does she know me? And she said no, and you sized me up, Karen, so much that to date even when I think about it, I'm like, wow, wow.
Well, let me tell you something. What struck me about that day, I was doing a marriage conference, a marriage and singles conference, talking about, I think it was about preparing yourself for marriage. And then I was talking about a married personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when you walked in, fly, 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 fly. You had on a pink suit. It was so fly. I said, look at this brother. From head to toe fly. I said, look at this melancholy personality put together. So I remember that as well. And so then after you did the conference, I remember this. After you did the conference, first of all, you came from, you and your wife came from the Poconos,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
stayed the night to stay at my conference. I didn't even know you guys at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you posting on my page the night before, we're here in Maryland, ready for the conference tomorrow. I was like, okay, who is this? And I was all excited, but you knew somebody I knew who told you about the conference.
Mm-hmm.
So after the conference was over, you reached out to me. And do you remember how that went?
Actually, no.
Okay, so you guys reached out to me and asked me if I would come, if I'd be willing to come to the Poconos to speak.
Oh yeah, that's correct. That is correct.
And
without hesitation, you said,
absolutely.
"Of course,
absolutely."
Sure." I'm like, babe, she said yes. And so we made it happen. Get you into the Poconos, put you up in a hotel, and you came. That was our first conference that my wife and I, so strange calling her Deb. I don't call her Deb. But that was the first conference my wife and I ever did, and so we were nervous, but the fact that we have people like you there, and we have David Bars, and a couple others there, man, we did not have the crowd that we expected, but the energy in that room, the unity in that room was phenomenal.
Yes, it absolutely was. And everybody was there. See, let me tell you something. To me, because I was doing marriage conferences and back then, and I'm looking to do some maybe this summer because I'm being asked to do my Couple for Life training courses. And so I'm looking to do that, but it's so difficult to get couples to come out together at the same time on the same day because schedules, So whenever you can get the number of people, and you had a nice showing, to come out and be dedicated, because I don't think it's about the numbers. I think it's about who's there. And whoever's there is supposed to be there. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And they received a word, and their marriages were able to be strengthened. And so I know it doesn't matter, because the numbers used to bother me at one time.
Right.
And I realized if one person's marriage or relationship is saved, or, comes together, or they get to see each other differently and understand each other differently, then it's all worth it. Even if it's just one person. And that's why I do what I do. And that's why you do what you do. You have a heart for marriages. I have a heart for marriages. I have a heart for relationships, and that people have a strong foundation, and understanding your personalities is the beginning of that. Right? All right. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about your book, right? Your book is A Journey to Becoming a Better You. It's a journal. So first, before we dive into the book a little bit, let's talk about why you got really into this whole idea of personal development as it relates to marriages or relationships. Like, what helped you to see that this was an important place for you to be?
So, so I'm from a failed marriage, and I'll say this in public, my marriage failed because I failed, not because my ex-wife failed, because I failed. And the reason why I failed because I did not understand that marriage is a divine institution where God is the blueprint. And so when you're building marriage, you have to build on the blueprint. You can't be Ed at the same time being married. You have to die daily to Ed, and so that your marriage can. So I did not know that in my first marriage, and so now my second marriage comes around, and and being the husband, I think I had it all together, and I know all now. This time around, second time around, I know what to do, all the things. But then, unfortunately, well, fortunately for me, my current marriage taught me how to do things different, which means that I had to learn real fast, Karen, to die to self. I
Yes.
had to learn real fast to unlearn and relearn some things,
Yes.
because I can't, I've always said, if you bring a brick from your old house to your current house, you basically will be building the same house.
Mm.
But I became intentional as to not to build the same house or the same
Excellent.
home in this one. So God and I have been talking for years about, Ed, in this marriage. Now you got to do some things different. You need to stop focus on Deb, or on the children, and now focus on you. Focus
Mhm.
on you being a better version of yourself in this marriage. And so, you know, many times I would talk to my wife about, man, we need to write a book about focusing on you. I never thought of the name yet or
Mhm.
anything, but eventually the name came about. I am now retired, so I have all the time at home. And I said to my wife, babe, we need to write a book. But I don't want to take away your time from work. I'll go ahead and write it, and and so we can critique it together, make the changes, etc. And Karen, let me tell you, I sat down, just me and God, and I put that pen to that paper, and I wrote, and I just could not stop writing. And
Mm.
today I'll tell you that this book, became it's over 247 pages.
Wow.
And it's only a 40 days journal. But and the reason why it's there's so many pages in that, because the importance of marriage, right? How important marriage is to God,
Yes.
and because marriage is something that mirrors the relationship between God and mankind.
Mhm.
So you can't just write, every little. You can't take 5-10 minutes. You can't. I could not give you an 80-page book.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't work.
Do it justice.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because I'll tell you, so the first challenge or the first task is communication, right?
Mhm.
Because we know that in a marriage we have communication is a big deal. And even though, and it's a journal, so Karen, I will tell you, I literally spend 7 days talking about 7 aspects, 7 area of communication
Wow.
style and communication, how you should on because it's my belief really
Mhm.
that in a marital relationship, or in a relationship for that matter, just as how there is the 5 love language,
Mhm.
there are also a communication language.
That's right. That's
and
right.
and in order for you to be successful in your marriage, you need to understand each other communication language and style.
And all of those are tied to personalities, right?
Absolutely.
Because certain personalities communicate a certain way. I teach classes about that. There's
Mhm.
certain personalities that communicate a certain way. There's some that are more assertive than others. There
Mhm.
are personalities that are calmer than others. There are personalities that don't really like to communicate, don't like to talk at all.
Mhm.
There's certain people, certain personalities that talk too much. We talked about
Mhm.
that in the beginning.
Right, 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 right.
That would be my personality. But let me ask you a question. Now, the book is entitled A Journey to a Better You, but what's the subtitle?
The subtitle is Principles to a Total Life Transformation in Your Marriage.
Okay, so let me ask you, is it only these principles can only be used in marriage, or is it something like if I'm getting married, would it be something that could apply to me?
Absolutely. So let's talk about one of the principle of which we touched on earlier, which is the communication aspect of it. You communicate to your children, you communicate to your parents, you communicate to your peer, you communicate with everybody, your boss at work, etc. So if you don't understand and have a clear understanding of mastering the art of communication, you're going to always run into difficulties. So
Absolutely.
so yes, it does apply to more than just marriage.
Do you think that understanding your own personality style helps you to have a better marriage or be a better partner in your marriage?
um yes, it helps me, but not just me understanding my personality style. It is also important that my wife, Debbie Petra Smith, understands my personality style as I understand her, because we communicate with each other more effectively when we understand how to do that with each other.
Absolutely. And I think once you understand, first of all, you start with understanding yourself, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because you're the only person you can change. You
Hmm.
can't change Deborah Petra Smith
Right, right.
at all. You
Correct.
can only change you.
Correct.
And so you start with yourself and understanding how you're hardwired, how are you
Hmm.
wired, right?
Hmm.
And how you're wired impacts everything you do, how you talk, how you act, what you buy, who you marry, who you date, who you
Hmm.
love, who you
Hmm.
work with, where you work, it impacts every decision that you make. So if you
Hmm.
start with understanding your own personality style, then you start to say, now, what's the personality style of the person that I'm involved with?
Hmm. Hmm.
What's that personality style? And where do we differ?
Hmm.
Because difference is not bad.
Right.
Being different is being different. It's not
Hmm.
bad
No.
because
No.
I see it one way and you see it another, right?
Hmm.
Can
Hmm.
two people be right at the same time? Yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
We both can be right because it's our perspectives, right?
Yeah, correct.
So I think it's definitely important to understand yourself and then to understand the person that you're involved with. And that could be your children, your spouse,
Hmm.
your coworkers, whomever, right?
Hmm.
All right.
Hmm.
So when I met you, I knew off the bat you were a melancholy because melancholies are put together. Like their stuff matches, right? They're clean, neat. They have it together. So when I saw you, how does that impact your marriage? Being a melancholy who's a now let me just lay some of these traits out. So and all of them may not be yours because no person has every single personality trait, right?
Correct. Hmm.
So, but some of the personality traits for a melancholy is a deep thinker, compassionate. They are highly intelligent, but they're also in their head a lot. They overanalyze. They can be critical and judgmental. Um,
Mm.
those are some of the traits.
Mm.
How does some of those traits impact your relationship?
And everything that you just spoke about, that is Edward James Smith the third to the T, to the T. How does that impact my relationship? So, my wife became my navigation system. My compass, my guide, and so whenever there's anything, period, even in the home, the children will be quicker to go to mom as opposed to me,
Mm.
because I'm going to dissect everything, right? And they can't deal with that. All I need pops is a yes or a no. And so I learned through my wife that not everything needs dissecting.
Yeah.
Not everything need to be criticized, whether or not it is good, positive criticism or negative criticism. It does not need that. Sometimes you just need to listen. If you ask for an opinion, I will give you my opinion and just let it be. you
Yeah.
know and I learned that. So earlier on in the stuff I spoke about learning and unlearning some things, and that's one of the things I had to unlearn and said, okay,
Mhm.
I can't keep doing it this way, because it can affect whomever that is in front of me, either negative or positive. And I always try to have a positive effect on people. So therefore, I'll ask you question before I give you my opinion.
Well, that's good. Can I give you my brother's number so you can tell him he doesn't have to fix everything? Because he's a choleric personality who believes that they have the answer to everything.
Right, right,
And they're always trying to fix it, even if you're just trying to say, this is what frustrated me today. I don't need it. I didn't ask you to fix it. I just wanted you to listen to me. Just
right,
listen. So
right.
let me ask you, Ed, because I want you to kind of give people, you told us a little bit about the book and the fact that it's covering communication styles, right?
Mhm.
Would you mind giving us some of the other topics that are in the book so that we can kind of get a feel for it?
Okay, sure, not a problem. If you don't mind, I need my glasses.
Go ahead, get your glasses.
Okay.
Trust me, I understand. I wear mine every day. Without them, I can't see anything.
Yeah.
Can't read
So
anything.
we talked about communications style. We talk about um, respectful communication, because communication has different categories, right? We talk about listening to understand, practice praying together. We
Mm.
have the cover. We talk about the covenant marriage and what that should look like. We talk about compromises and understanding compromising, and it's okay to compromise. Compromising does not mean that you're giving up your personality, or you're giving up your core character, or your value system. It is compromising for the
Yeah,
relationship. You
yeah,
compromise at work.
yeah.
You compromise in a lot of things that you do. So therefore, it is okay to compromise in your marriage. We
I want
talk
you to
about,
pause there for a second
yes.
because I totally agree with you as it relates to compromise. Because there are personalities, as I said, the choleric personality. Basically, it's my way or the highway. Like I'm
Mhm.
always right about everything, so they have a really difficult time compromising,
Mhm.
because they always feel that they're right. Now, they are right a lot of the times. I'm a secondary choleric, by the way.
Mhm.
Full disclosure. But they are right a lot of the times. But like I said earlier, because they're right doesn't mean the other person's not right too.
Correct.
So if let's say we're talking about getting my car fixed, and I take one approach to getting my car fixed, and you take another approach to getting my car fixed, they both will work.
Mhm.
They're both
Mhm.
right.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So that's why I think compromise is critical. But the sanguine personality, that personality will easily give away their position because they want people to like them.
Mhm. Mhm.
They want to be liked. We have a high need to be liked. That's my primary.
Mhm.
The melancholy is probably the most balanced as it relates to compromise,
Mhm.
unless they really think they're right. If they think
Mhm.
they're right about something, it's a struggle, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And they're very critical. So that's really good that you have compromise in the book, because I think it's really going to help all the personalities be able to recognize how they can communicate and compromise in a better way. So,
Yes.
okay, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, and just to touch on that real quick, Karen, I find that when people struggle with compromising, that person oftentimes love to be in control.
Yes. And I
Right?
said that's a choleric, didn't I?
Yeah.
Who is your brother? Who is my husband?
Uh, okay, so on day 11, we're talking about loving your spouse in spite of.
Whew. Let me tell you.
And that is a struggle there, because we oftentimes want to love because of, I love you because you did this, I love you because you know. But God should listen. God says, Ed, love Deb as I love the church, and he demonstrate what type of love is by dying, which means that part of my responsibility and part of my job is to love Deb even when she's not lovable.
Watch out. I can't even imagine that being the case because I know that that's my girl.
I'm not
Okay,
saying
just making sure. Just making sure you're not.
That is the case, but I'm just saying that, because we both are human, and
Yeah.
everybody wants to do things their way, and everybody is just centered about self. And if she's not doing something that is compatible with myself,
Yeah.
then we got a problem, and vice versa. So we spoke about loving your spouse in spite of.
But that's really good because there are times. Well, Ed, how long have you been married?
So the 24th of this month is going to be 16 years.
So 16 years for you. At October 14th, it will be 29 years for us.
Mm-hmm.
And in your 16 years, it's like I know in my 29 years,
Right.
that there are just times when your spouse is not lovable.
No.
Right?
Nope.
Or you're not lovable.
There you go.
So, right. And because life is cyclical,
Mm-hmm.
and that, today I'm madly in love, but 6 months from now, I may not be able to stand him. I don't know. But I remember a time when that happened for me, when I felt like I could divorce him. Please, Lord, just let me divorce him. Please. I know you hate divorce, but I can't stand this man right here. And
I'm willing to start all over again, Lord. Please.
And I can tell you that one of the things I recognize in marriage is that the things that you love about your spouse when you meet them and you fall in love with them, when you're going through a difficult time, is the very things you can't stand about them.
Come on.
Right?
Come on.
And so I think about this because my husband is a choleric sanguine. So the sanguine part of him is fun loving, and he cracks jokes. He cracks jokes all the time. I don't care who it is, with whom, whatever. And so we were going through a difficult time, and I didn't think anything about him was funny. Like nothing he said was funny to me. Shut up. And I remember getting tickets from my company, and it was his favorite team was playing. The Oakland A's was playing the Orioles. Mm-hmm. And my job gave us tickets, and we were down on the ground where it was just a beautiful day. We could see the sweat on the players' faces. We were so close. And he was so excited that he got to see his favorite team right on the ground. And so I remember the Holy Spirit saying, laugh at his jokes.
Right.
And I said, why? His jokes aren't funny.
Right.
And he said, laugh at his jokes. And I was like, okay. So he would say something. I was like, and then I would just keep laughing because that was the instruction. And eventually his jokes got funny again.
Right.
So sometimes you got to fake it until you make it, right? But you got to love them even when they're unlovable.
Just to pause for a minute,
okay.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about, a workshop that we have done before, and we talk about the four seasons of marriage, right? Winter, spring, summer, and fall. And we would talk about, what does winter looks like, summer, spring, and all that stuff. And it just reminds me, Karen, that even in a marital relationship, you can be in the springtime of you could be in the winter time of the relationship while your spouse is in the springtime.
Mm-hmm.
Both don't.
That's true.
Yeah, you can be in the winter time while your spouse is in the spring and is in the springtime, and until you start to pay attention to each other, you won't even realize that both of you are not in the same season.
Yeah.
And so listening to you, at that moment, you were in a total different season than he was.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He's always his personality is one though that he doesn't harbor stuff. I'm the one. I was the one who harbored, animosity or whatever aggravation. But he would, even if we got mad with each other, he would just move on as if everything was fine the next day. I'm like,
Right.
what are you doing?
Right.
What else is in your book?
So we spoke. We talk also about we talk about what your love language.
Yeah.
So before that, we talk about the 5 love languages, and then we talk about your love language. Then we talk about moving at the speed of trust, because we in a lot of times in relationship, as you know, trust is one of the foundation pillars for the relationship. And so what happened when trust is broken?
Okay, that's really good.
Right.
Because that happens a lot. And people think trust is only infidelity, but trust could be financial infidelity, right? It could be
trust could be as simple as a lie.
A lie, a simple lie. Exactly. Trust, it really makes, better than that, omission.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
People swear omission is not a lie, but that's exactly what it is. That's why they call it the sin of omission.
Yeah. I've always said this, and my wife can't stand when I said it, but there is something that is called a paradigm shift. And whenever I give you, whenever I tell you something, I did not tell you a direct lie, but what proceed out of my mouth caused you to think something else than the truth, then I lied.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Okay.
So day 15 we have what does your fight reveal about your relationship? And it's very, very interesting, simply because do you fight fair?
Yeah.
Right. Do you both fight the same way? Are you fighting because you're fighting you're going for the juggler?
Yeah. And that's interesting. So let me marry that with the personalities a little bit. So the extroverts normally fight loud, right? The sanguine's loud, the choleric's loud. The choleric tends to hurt people's feelings, not without even knowing that they're hurting people's feelings, because the way they talk every day sounds like they're mad. Like when they communicate and say something simple, it sounds like it is an attack. So you can always count on a choleric, unless they are a grown choleric. You can count on them to be a person that is aggressive in their communication, curt and aggressive in their communication. The sanguine, sorry about that. The sanguine tends to fight. They get angry really quickly. Like they have a flash of anger, but then they get over it just as quickly. The unfortunate thing is most people don't. So you're over it, but the other people are not over it, right? The melancholy is the kind of personality that they get angry and they're going to get you back. And you won't even know they got you. They know they got you and they revel in that.
Right.
They're able to get you and you not know it, right? And they hold grudges forever. And the phlegmatic want to pretend like nothing's happened. They don't want any kind of confrontation. They would rather you have your way, just so that you won't disturb their peace. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how the personalities deal with fighting.
And listening to you, this is the reason why it's very important that we know and understand each other personalities, right? And if your personality dictate that you're going to be loud and boisterous, and we're going to call each other names that we're going to have to apologize about later on, then hey, maybe we need to change something, because if you go back to Adam and Eve, and I love Genesis, Karen. If you go back to Adam and Eve, when God gave Adam the ability to name everything, all the animal. If you notice, Adam even named Eve.
Yeah.
And so, if when you're fighting, you're calling your spouse the B word and stuff like that, don't be surprised if she start to act like a pit bull because you named her that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's very imperative that
Oh, I
even
like that.
yeah, it's very imperative that even though you're having, we call it intense fellowship,
Right.
you still, you still maintain a level of respect for each other.
I agree. I just want to say this comment. Evangeline says, Lord, every time I hear the relationship marriage guru speak, I realize why I'm still single. It's helping to prepare you, sis. I'm telling you. God is still working on you, girl. Forgiveness is
Right,
my
right.
strength, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, forgiveness is so funny. I was having a whole conversation with my daughter today about forgiveness and why we forgive. And that's a whole show. And I think I'm going to do a
Mhm.
show about forgiveness because she really wanted to understand how people can forgive and what constitutes a forgiveness. So I think that's a whole different show, and I think I'm going to bring some folks on and talk about that. Maybe because I want to do this show where I have all males on it, and then I want to show it all females on it, and then I want to bring them together. So that's my desire.
Okay.
I'm gonna make that happen.
All right. So the next topic that we talked about, I wanted to make this the last topic of the book because it's a difficult one, but God speak to me and said, no, put it much earlier in the book. And that topic is apology.
Nice.
Apology.
I'm getting that book. I'm getting it.
Apology is such a difficult thing. And I did not realize how difficult it was until I started counseling couple. Why is it so hard for you to apologize to your spouse?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard.
and yeah, because apology is not necessarily for your spouse
Right.
or for the person in front of you, but apology is more for you.
Whoo, I'm telling you, I had this conversation today.
Apology is more for the person in the male, and it's not the
You
person
free yourself.
Yeah,
it allows you to free yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Because the anger eats you up. I was telling my daughter today that years ago when I was going through, because I was married before too. When I was going through my divorce, I didn't want to be divorced. I was one of the first people in my family to get a divorce. Actually, it was only two of us that got divorced. It's my very oldest sister and me. And I had not seen divorce. My parents were married until death. And so I really didn't see that. And my sister is much older than me, so I didn't even see that divorce. I didn't know anything about it because she was had moved out of the house and everything long before I was old enough to understand it. And so to when I was going through the divorce, I didn't want a divorce. And so I was so upset about it. And every time my ex would call me, my stomach would jump into knots. Right. And I would just feel sick to my stomach. And I would just have those, that queasy feeling. And I read in an article that said that any kind of stress on you, and it could be good or bad, you're buying a house, you're getting a divorce, you got a new job, you get a promotion, you got fired, all those kind of stressors, which are good or bad, typically within 2 years of some major event, you have an illness. And for me, 2 years later, I had a hiatal hernia.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so that's why I'm saying the forgiveness is for you.
Yes.
Because it releases you from being tied to that person and that situation and that thing. And so I believe that completely. So let me ask you, Ed, because we're going to run out of time and I want to make sure we can answer a few of the questions that we have from the audience too. How can couples use the principles in your book for them to be able to navigate difficult situations in a relationship or conflicts or disagreements?
Well, everything is all about relationship, right? And relationship is relationship, and it has little or nothing to do with just marriage, right? The conflicts that are in my book, it's it's all about you becoming a better version of yourself.
Yes.
Better version of yourself. The young lady that is on who says, every time she hear a marriage guru, she know why she's not married, because because here's what it is. God will not probably God will not put you in front of someone until he knows that you are ready,
Yeah.
right? He knows that you can only give the best version of yourself. Watch this. In this the story of Adam and Eve, if you realize, it was Adam and God for a while before Eve came about. Eve was only presented to Adam when God knew that Adam was ready. Knew
Yes.
that Adam was at the top peak version of himself.
Nice.
And that's when God gave Eve to Adam. Well, it's the same thing. If you find yourself in under the umbrella of God, and it's you and God doing your thing, God is working on you. It's you and God will be like the potter and the clay, right? And when you make yourself vulnerable in his hand, he can only mold you and make you into the version that he wants to make you. Now he presents you.
Yes. And people need to understand you're wired a certain way for a reason,
Correct.
right? He will use you in your strengths and your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
He will use you in both. One thing doesn't get cast away. I heard Oprah say a long time ago, everything will be used, nothing will be wasted.
Come on.
So
Yes.
no matter what you go through, difficult times, great time, whatever, everything will be used and nothing will be wasted. I love that quote. I just think that was an amazing quote.
Yeah.
How can individuals work on improving themselves and grow so that they can be a better partner? Like, I know the book has got a whole bunch of stuff, but give me like a tip or two that they could use to help them become a better partner.
Well, first you got to look yourself in the mirror, right? And talk to the person in the mirror. You know your version more than, the only person that knows your version better than you is God.
Yeah.
Right? And be true to who you are. When you are not being good in the relationship.
Yeah.
When you're messing up.
Like that.
When your mouth is just loose.
You're doing the most.
Yeah. When you out there, dogging your spouse and stuff. So now, in a marriage, the Bible says two shall become one.
Yeah.
The things that you're doing to your spouse, is that enhancing oneness or is interfering with oneness?
Yeah.
And so now the book just talks about how can you be a better version of yourself, which means that, Karen, and I will keep using this, you have to die daily to self, because here's what it is. The natural progression of human is to please self, right? The natural progression of marriage is to deny self. I hope somebody get that. The natural progression of marriage is to deny self. So now that you're married, self is no longer the core purpose in the marriage.
Yeah.
It is now God and your spouse.
Yes.
And in order for you to put self aside, you have to die daily to self. You understand me?
I do.
I'm willing to sacrifice my life for my spouse. If you're not in that position where you're willing to sacrifice, then
So in other words, you have to be selfless instead of selfish.
Yeah, selfless instead of selfish.
And selfishness is the number one reason for divorce.
Come on.
Because all we care about is ourselves and what we need and what we want. And I've said this before. I've said this before, is if I serve you and you serve me, we both get served.
There you go. There you go.
Right?
There you go. There
You
you
won't get
go.
served.
There you go.
So instead of you trying to serve yourself, try to serve your mate and then let him do the same. And
Mm-hmm.
if they're not, and if you're not married yet, these are things that you should be looking at. You should be looking at, do I have a person that is always constantly thinking of themselves?
Right. And
And
then
I always constantly thinking of myself.
come on, and when you serve and die to self, today, you can't use that is not being carried over into tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow you have to die afresh. Tomorrow
Right.
you have to die anew. I have one of the every day I wake up, I try to be a better version of myself. I don't know if Debbie could attest to that, but I really, really tried, and I always try to even so let me tell you this one. I remember one time I got up, and I always tell the story, and I said, for the next 7 days, I'm going to say to my wife, how can I serve you today?
Woo!
And so I got up day one. I got up, and after our devotion and all that stuff, I said to her, babe, how can I serve you today? She was like, huh? So I said, how can I serve you today? I will do whatever it is that you desire. So she tells me, and I did it. Day two, the same thing. How can I serve you today? She did it. I tell her by day three, she ran out of options.
Mm.
But now if she was on, she would say, oh, let him come now. Let him come. I have something.
Exactly.
And so marriage is all about serving, Karen, and we have to learn how to be servant leaders.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So Evangeline has a question. Her question is, can you be a blend of multiple personality types? The answer is yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a primary personality style and you have a secondary personality style. Everybody has that. Sometimes your secondary is so low or so small that all you see is the primary, right? Some people, you can see them flow back and forth between the two. But can you be all four of them? It's only because of learned behavior that you would be all four.
Mm-hmm.
Like my daughter's on this call, and she made a comment too about sometimes she's all here. This is it here. I do all four. I guess it depends on my marriage season. Laugh out loud. No, but what happens is her personality style is the peaceful phlegmatic. They're indecisive, but they can also mimic all the personality styles based on what they need.
Mm-hmm.
So if let's just say her job requires her to be in charge. Well, she's a behind the scenes person, but she can mimic a choleric who's, who can run the show or manage or do whatever. If her job requires her to speak, she would rather not talk at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if she has to, then she can step up and be like a sanguine and do a whole presentation. So she can literally take on all personality styles. She can mimic them. So in that way, yes, you can be like all four personality styles, but typically you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And Evangeline had another question. Can your personality style change over the years? Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
So Evangeline, whatever you were born, I'm a sanguine choleric. I was born a sanguine choleric. I'll die one. However, how you show up can change based on a lot of factors. If you have some trauma in your life, I'm outgoing, bubbly. If I had some trauma, say I was attacked, I may withdraw, and you may not see the outgoing bubbliness of me because I had some kind of trauma. Also growth, because of your spiritual growth or because of your personal development, that can have you looking, maybe you're choleric and you're bossy, and you're starting to rethink the fact that you don't want to be a bossy person. And what can I do to not sound so aggressive or curt or abrasive? So those things can change, but you will stay that personality style that you were born. So I hope that answered your question. So I tell you, Ed, this is some good stuff here. I know that book is going to be like another Amazon bestseller.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe that that book is going to help a lot of people, not only in marriage, but people who are thinking about getting married or even not, because
Mhm.
it has communication styles, and that's in any relationship. You should be able to use that.
Mhm.
So I think
Mhm.
that's good. Debbie said the forgiveness is hard, but God. And let me tell you, forgiveness is hard. And one of the questions I had, and you might want to talk about this a little bit. The question I had earlier today was, if you forgive, does that mean you reconcile? No, because sometimes reconciliation is impossible, right? But the forgiveness has nothing. Those are two separate things. Reconciliation is one thing, forgiveness is another. We have the saying that forgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die.
Mhm.
And but reconciliation is not necessary to forgive. So let's
Mhm.
just say the person that you need to forgive did something egregious to you. You can forgive them. Doesn't mean that you have to have them in your life.
Mhm.
Now, what do you think about that, Ed?
And so, great question, and I'm telling you, there's not much question that I feared, but this is one of them. And here's the reason why. Because, when I think of forgiveness, I think of God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I come to God and ask Him to forgive me genuinely, of something that I've done, you know, God forgives me, and then He treats me as though I never committed that sin,
Absolutely.
right? And so now, if that is correct, how do I equate that with
Reconciliation.
reconciliation?
Because not, okay, so the Bible also says, and this is a scripture I used earlier today, it says, um, if possible, as far as it depends on you, be at peace
Yeah,
with all men.
right, right.
And the reason why that scripture is written that way, I believe, is
Mhm,
because if possible gives you the caveat, it's a caveat, right? It
mhm.
says when it's possible, because it's not always possible that you can be at peace with all men. But
Because of our sinful nature, though.
well, yeah, and because not everybody wants to be at peace with you.
Okay.
So because I may want to be at peace with you, you may not want to be at peace with me. For
Mhm,
instance, I have that very situation. I just thought of it just a second. I have a neighbor who does not want to be, I wanted to be at peace with her. I was doing all kinds of things for her, like, bringing her groceries, going grocery shopping for her, whatever she needed from me. And then she accused me of something that wasn't true. And now she doesn't want to be at peace with me.
mhm,
I haven't done anything wrong, so I don't have any reason to not be at peace with her. But not
mhm,
everybody wants to be at peace with you. So the Bible says, if possible, as
mhm,
far as it depends on you, so
mhm,
your part, you are
mhm,
to be at peace with all men. And
mhm,
that's why I believe that caveat is there, because there will be people, there are people who go down the street and they look at your race and they don't like you just because of your race. You can't
mhm,
be at peace with them. But
mhm,
if it was possible for you to, you would. So I
mhm,
think that's, it just depends on if it's possible, because it's not always possible even to reconcile a relationship. And what I mean by that, let's say somebody shot you. You can forgive them, but you may not want them in your house every day. you know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah, right.
So that's why. So it's just an interesting comment.
Yeah, it
Let's
is.
see if we got any folks saying that. Reconciliation is not always a byproduct of forgiveness. See, I think that too. I think it can be,
Mhm,
but it's not always that.
mhm,
Um, Deborah Evans said, and I love this. God forgives us and treats us as if we never sinned. It is powerful. That is powerful, and I believe that. And if we can do that, well, we should. We should work towards reconciliation where we can with people. Um,
mhm,
because I think hurting people hurt people. And a lot of
mhm,
reasons why we have difficulty. First of all, I think the key to a lot of the difficulties that we have with people is based on misunderstanding, which is why I teach about
mhm,
personalities so we can understand
mhm,
each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that that people need to know um, that they can forgive even if reconciliation is impossible, because it's not always possible. I want to reconcile with somebody, but she may not ever want to reconcile with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And once I've extended myself and I try to reach out for reconciliation, if
Yeah.
that's not the path they want to go, that's not the path they want to
Yeah.
go.
So we could see reconciliation as a probably a dual thing, right? And
Mhm.
so I'm not responsible for your part, right?
That's right.
But I'm responsible for my part. And if I've forgiven you and I'm at a place where I can reconcile with you, but you chose not to reconcile with me, then there's nothing that I can do with it. I'm at peace with God.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, so Evangeline says the social worker in me can't resist saying that forgiveness cannot always be accompanied with reconciliation or connection. That is so true, because as a social worker, Evangeline, I'm sure you see all kinds of atrocities. And sometimes people cannot, cannot, even if they can forgive, if they can get to a place of forgiveness, they can't reconcile with their abuser. So
Mhm,
yeah, I can
mhm,
understand that.
mhm. Yeah, I can see
And
that.
she also says that nor is reconciliation always healthy. Based on, if you have an abusive spouse or something like that, he's beating you, he's hurting you, whatever, and he has not
Mhm,
healed
mhm,
himself,
mhm,
a reconciliation may not
mhm,
be possible. So
mhm.
yeah, but I love what you're saying is the goal,
Right, right,
right?
yeah, because the ultimate goal here, so forgiveness, the ultimate goal should lead to reconciliation, and the reason for this is that you know if I did something to you that was so terrible, then in order for me not to do that thing again, I have to get to a place where I if it takes for me to go to therapy or,
Yeah,
or counseling or whatever, because 2 months from now, 3 months, 5 years from now, if I'm still that same person, then what have we accomplished here?
true,
Yeah.
true. Ed, I love you, brother. I thank you so much for joining me tonight. Please tell me what's on the horizon for, well, first of all, his ministry is Meet the Smiths. So what's on the horizon for Meet the Smiths?
Well, what's on the horizon, man? Listen to me. We have as you know, Karen, we every year we do a marriage boot camp out of the country. Yes, there you go with the t-shirt. This means
My
war.
t-shirt, this
Yes,
means war.
yeah, that's what we do. And so this October we will be going to Dubai. And when we spoke to the travel agent, when was it, last week, we have 210 people signed up and still counting, Karen.
Oh
Look
my
at
gosh, it's
God.
so
Look
amazing. Look
at
at
God. Look at God.
yes, yes.
Last October we did, because we alternate between destination and cruise,
Yeah.
right? Last October we did a cruise, and we did a Mediterranean cruise. So we flew into Barcelona, and we up on the ship there, and we traveled, we sailed Spain, and so many different places. And let me tell you, God is good. That's all I can say.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's so amazing. So tell me, how can people get in touch with the Smiths, especially if they're interested in that Dubai trip?
Yeah.
How can they get in touch with you?
Well, the easiest way to get in touch with the Smiths is go to our website. Anything that you need as it relates to a Dubai trip, it's right there, which is meetthesmiths.org.
I love it.
Um,
Deb,
and
can you
so,
put it in the chat? Meet
sorry.
the Smiths. I was asking Deb to put it in the chat.
Oh, Yeah, meetthesmiths.org. You can get information for the Dubai trip there. We have a monthly, because we're in Georgia, we do a monthly couples club thing down here. That information is on our website. And also, for our book that is finally, I know a lot of people have already pre-ordered. And so, if you're listening, book will be shipped to you as of next week, because as of next week we should be getting the full order in. And so you can pre-order from our website, meetthesmiths.org. Everything that you need about the Smiths, go to meetthesmiths.org.
I know that book is going to sell out, so you better already start ordering your second batch of books, because I'm sure it's going to sell out, especially when you go on a cruise. Remember when I wrote my book, I debuted it on the cruise, and it was sold like hotcakes.
Yes, ma'am.
So I thank you for that. I thank you for joining me, Ed Smith of Meet the Smiths, and talking about this amazing topic, which is the personalities and becoming a better you. As Ed said, you can reach out to him on meetthesmiths.org, so you can find out more about what's going on with him. If you want to know more about personalities, you can follow me on all my social media platforms at Beyond2 LLC. That's Beyond TWO LLC, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube is Personality Speaking. So I'm so excited that you guys were able to join me. Please join us next week, as we're going to talk about personalities and marriage and business. And these married couples are in business together. You need to be watching in on that one, because you and your wife are in business together.
Yeah.
So see us here again next week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love you guys. And come back to Personality Speaking, where the tea is always hot. Good night, everybody. Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night.